Happy Wednesday. How's it going? Let's get started. So if you missed last week, we did some drawing, like always. And we came up with some fun designs, and then I went ahead and drew out another one. So for context, this is part of a little game project that I'm working on. And so we're going to go ahead and go with this bipedal one. I like the one in the middle. There's some element about it that I think, like, such as the horns, that I might try to implement. And in 3D, we can play around with, that kind of stuff, so it's helpful. But as far as what the character needs to do to fit game mechanics and kind of the story idea, it does kind of need to walk upright a little bit. So, although there's elements of all three that I kind of like, so I might try to blend them together to make something kind of fun. And that's usually what happens. Usually I start with a sphere, but he's so blocky in the face that actually there's no reason I can't start with a cube. I still Dynamish it, but so today we're just going to be blocking out the character and getting all those shapes in there. And these characters are going to be pretty stylized, probably even more stylized than what I usually do. I know I usually do pretty stylized stuff. We're going to keep them pretty simple. So I'm not really sure it will take all the weeks, but we'll see. We'll see what we come up with. And if it doesn't, well, then that's cool. We can move on to the next character. Now, these models are going to be interesting maybe later, because this is going to be the character's only really going to be viewed from kind of like the side, kind of 3/4, because it's an isometric game. So, well, not isometric, sorry, platformer. So it will be kind of interesting to see later on what I might have to change or tweak depending on the character or the angle of the game. How am I Dynamish working? Do the Dynamish things. That's weird. Why does it not want the groups turned on? That's super weird. All right. Try that. That seemed to work. Okay. Weird. I was just trying to get some like eyebrow geometry here. I think it'll be nice to kind of block out these shapes like this. And if you're in the chat, you can always say hi. We're just sculpting along, and feel free to ask questions as well if you're new or you just dropped in the chat. We make usually about a character a month, so it kind of depends on how complicated that character is, but that's usually about how it goes. I usually will do it based off of some sort of form of prompt that I kind of give myself, or so the title says, an archetype, right? So does Yo count? Yo obviously counts. Yo will always count. It doesn't really have a neck, so This will be interesting. I don't need to, but his body's very just spheroid. This feels like elevator music. We want to get that hunched feeling. He doesn't have to be completely oval, but body definitely is more oval than not. Hello. Polyferret's asking which concept I end up going with. I like the bipedal one. I'm not the only one working on this game, so we had a good discussion about what are the needs and fits of the character and who the character is. And that's when we decided to go with a more bipedal character, because it's going to help with the characterization that we need to go for the character. But there are elements of kind of all three that I do like, that we are going to try to incorporate and whatnot. And the nice part about 3D is, like if I like, a certain part of the horns or something on one, I can easily make multiple horns and go, hey, which one do you like? Which one is cool? Kind of thing. Which is super helpful. We'll see. I want to give him you should feel pretty hunched over. We'll see how long this character takes me, because it's a lot. It's simpler, but sometimes simple doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It really just depends on how the shapes kind of follow each other and go. We'll see. Because, executing something that's like very, very simple and not giving yourself a lot of like detail and stuff like that, and trying to say a lot with a little is a very challenging task in itself. But it's very fun and rewarding. Just trying to get out those shapes. So the biggest thing is going to be getting that silhouette to look proper. He's got very, very big hands, so make sure that. Right now, it's just more about getting shapes in, so I'm just trying to get a deltoid, bicep, forearm, and then we can, mess with the shapes afterwards, and make sure it's. I always really try to add the volume where I know that musculature is, even if it's a very simple, stylized character. We're still trying to hold true to that anatomy. And later on, this is just kind of a block out, because we also have he's mechanical, like muscle fibers, right? So we're gonna have a lot of stuff. Probably filling in these shapes later. That we'll have to kind of like tone the overall shapes down, so that way we make room for. Okay. So that way the muscle fiber can sit on top, and he doesn't get like too thick. That would be the goal. But for now, I just need to see the overall volume, and then I can kind of tone it down, and then we can focus on how we're gonna execute, those muscle fibers. Just staying very low poly. I'm really trying to match the shapes in my concept. even as a character artist, when you're doing your own concept, I highly recommend that you should try to stick to, you know, what you make. Unless you have a really good idea to change it. I think if you like your, you know, your original drawing, you got to figure out as a 2D artist, why do you like it? Why does it work? And things like that. And I do think that's really, really helpful. I might merge these like this shape later, but for me, sometimes it's easier to group this, and then I can manipulate these kind of more by themselves. So I can give them like a larger hawk without worrying about maybe messing up what the calf muscle, right, is going to be. And then here's a fun trick too is, I mean, I have polygroups on, so it might mess up a little bit, but what you can do is I can use the slice curve, and then in brushes, there's a smooth folder, and in that smooth folder, there's one called groups, and then if you do that, it should, I didn't really like that too much, but it should actually kind of like flatten out. So if I take this, kind of flatten it, like trying to make hooves. It tries to do it, but it also is shrinking it, but you can get like a pretty flat looking shape. Oops, focus on the tree, turn it on. Just so I can, for that silhouette, I'm really trying to get, again, what I tried to execute in the drawing. And again, the drawing's only from a 3/4, right? So now this is where I also get to figure out the other views and make it, you know, make sense. Go ahead and pull out kneecap here. That's also what I have. I wanted to, even starting to like color this now would be, you know, a cool idea. I won't yet, but you totally can. Just making that feeling a little more forward, starting to feel more in shape like a deltoid here. Even though it's very stylized, we're still, again, focusing on insertion points and making sure that those silhouettes read properly. I'll probably actually take his arms. I'll put them in a bit more of a T-pose. You don't need to go like way out here. I find it really hard to actually sculpt this way because it feels unnatural, and there's a lot of stuff that like anatomy-wise and stuff would stretch. So I like to have a little bit of a more of like an A pose. But if you do it too close, oh, he's flexing now. Whoa. But if you do it too close, then you can't get up into the armpit here. Which later, when for games or something, when you retop and he needs to deform properly, that can always be kind of an issue. So I like to make sure that kind of focusing on stuff like that. And you can see he's a little too top heavy. He's very top heavy, so we know that we're balancing this. And the best way to kind of do that is to make sure that we're pulling his pelvis a little more forward. And then we can put his... I moved his thing. Oops. That's okay. I'll just delete it. Now we can grab... That was the problem with having it done on fine image, but that's okay. Pull this out a little bit. Now we can probably focus on trying to pull his maybe this body piece back. Right, so trying to find a good balance. We also try to shift it forward slightly, so we could give them, we can kind of lean a little more forward, but also pull it back. So maybe fine balance that goes along with this stuff. Eyebrows, and then that would go back. Looking at it, his head's too big as well. So to make something feel like really big, you give him a tiny head. That's kind of the secret. The smaller the head, as you can see, he feels like really big now, right? He feels like massive. So the smaller the head, usually it means the bigger the character. And same vice versa. If you make a head really, really big, it's gonna feel chibi, right? And feel really weird. That's feeling okay. And again, really just looking at the silhouette to say, make sure that that bicep goes into the right spots here. And I think, well, I'm not quite sure yet. I mean, we'll have his shoulders a little covered. But for the game model, you could probably even keep, for how simple the character is going to be, I'll probably even keep, you could probably keep all these shapes actually separate for the sake of ease of rigging. You could actually model it this way. You can merge some stuff, but there's some things that you're like, if the arms, it's annoying to move the arms around and stuff, then it needs to attach it. Try to move this hawk over. One thing that I noticed that people don't do with trilateral legs, meaning the kind of quadruped type legs, is they'll always look weird because they kind of do this number where they try to like keep them straight. But the silhouette's always going to look really weird and awkward when you do that. And the legs will always feel like kind of short because you're not actually giving it its proper silhouette. So make sure the hawks kind of bow inward and the knees are a little more bowed out. And that'll help kind of sell that shape more. Like if you look on the back of a dog's leg or a horse or something, you'll see they kind of bow in a little bit. And his ball shape is actually, it's going to stay pretty ball form because we're going to put a bunch of cool, maybe a bunch of cool mech stuff kind of on it. I'm going to go ahead and mirror weld, and then I'm going to grab his horns here, or duplicate his eyebrows, and I'm going to make horns. That's what I'm going to do. And I do want to try the kind of longer, more upright ones because I think that could be fun. Polyfair's asking, when you are ready to rig, do you push the knees in more? Pole vectors don't seem to like certain angles. They don't seem to like certain angles. That's why you don't do it. I haven't really found an issue where the pole vectors don't like this angle. If you are running to that, I mean, you can push them out a little bit, but you do want to make sure that the angle does bow inward, right? If I was to draw a line, it eventually kind of meet the center point where the hips are, kind of thing. And I've never really run into an issue. You definitely can if you bow them too much or you make them too, exaggerated or something, then yeah, that pole vector can get messed up. But I haven't run into it too much. I run into the legs not bending the correct angle more if it's not there than running into it being all weird. But yeah, it's always a good thing to avoid. It's very funny though. It's entertaining, to say the least. Oops. Gotta auto group that first because I don't want it to merge with the eyebrows. Indeed, indeed. And again, always looking at them from where they're going to be viewed at will kind of determine the shapes of these characters. Because we'll see them most from it, if not only from this angle, really, right? Then we'll have to make sure that this is the best looking angle. So from the front, I still want it to work and not look super, but I really just more like for the horns, for example, I really more care about, what's the silhouette of the horns when I look at them from this angle specifically. Right, because I mean, I could do a bunch of stuff where I bow them out or, do something like that or whatever, which could work and is cool for the front. But again, we're not going to see them from the front. So like making sure that does this work and does the silhouette stay where I need it to in order for it to look cool from that angle, right? Again, you can have it make sense in the grand scheme of things, but it's not my priority. My priority is going to be making sure it looks good from here. I'll go ahead and grab and pull his hand down. I'm going to make a hand, so mirror and weld it, and then grab this part. Whatever, I think. ZBrush loves turning your stuff almost the same color as what you just pulled out. It's its favorite thing. I should probably take the here. He has pretty big beefy hands. I'm gonna lurk for a bit. Lurk all you want. I'm here for it. If this is just a chill lurking screen, that's totally fine. I don't have to talk that much. Just listen to chill music and enjoy the block out. I hope it's helpful. Hands for a game that res mesh like this for what I'm envisioning for the game, I could easily just, especially because he's mechanical too, I could easily split this up and do a lot of different parts and not have to worry about modeling a really crazy hand or anything like that, which is kind of nice. We'll make his hand definitely. His hand definitely needs to get thicker, but it's good to block out. And I think I was thinking he would wear. I mean, it's not like concept, but maybe an idea that he wears like kind of like they go into like metal gauntlets, so it's eventually going to do something kind of like that. So they're more like these big gauntlet things. And the muscle fiber stuff goes kind of sinks into and stuff. That was one of the initial. That's one of my initial ideas. For reading purposes, it might be boring, but I'll definitely try to keep these slightly more straight. Because you don't want to. If you make them too twisted or too crazy or weird, you could actually end up with the same problem that I think Polyferret mentioned with pole vectors being weird or it rotating in the wrong angles. I like to try to sculpt in a natural pose, and then later I could always repose it a little bit to look a little straight, because you can see how kind of like weird and stiff it looks. And so for me, I feel like I always get kind of a disconnect. I actually don't think I'll like the gauntlet. I think it would have to be much longer. It would have to be like big gauntlet thing. That could work. And you don't see as much of the muscle fibers, which I feel like is actually the more important part. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna pull his hand back down. Again, that's the kind of nice part about experimenting in 3D is you can do the same in drawing and stuff too, but it's nice to just kind of go like, does this shape work, and push it really hard and go, maybe, maybe not, right? And then just kind of get an idea, and then you can be like, yes or no, and go back to what you were doing before. We definitely wanted his arms to be almost so long that they would like touch. They pretty much touch the ground. Almost, but not. really big brush to punch them over a bit more. I think that's working. You can see how simple that side silhouette is. Although it is helpful to probably look at it right without the arms. You can see how nice and punched it is, and to get a feeling of balance, to feel like he's really able to stand that way. You kind of want to look at, the important thing is you can cut your character in half almost at the heel and see if is the volume half and half, and then that can kind of help you go and make a decision about it. Magical Captain King, sorry, your whole name together was like, whoa. He's saying, what if instead of big hands, tiny hands? We have done the tiny hands on big characters before. So, and this character also is, the game mechanic is going to be that he's going to try to smash you. And so as far as it's really important for a game read to make sure that the player from this angle is like, he's 90% hands, which means that's probably the thing that I'm going to have to look out for, right? So that player readability is going to be super important. But if you do want to see a character with tiny hands, that's a big character. We did do one that's called the Brute. Not that I don't actually, it was quite a while ago. I think it's the second character that I did on this stream, and it's a giant night chipmunk, and he was really fun to do. So you can check him out. And I think on the stream I gave him big hands, and then someone was like, "What if you gave him tiny hands?" And then I said absolutely, and I did. And yeah, it turned out really fun, super cool. Just trying to get arms to feel right. I don't think there's enough thickness here. And remember, these shapes later will be, we can kind of start sculpting them in a little bit, but they're going to taper in and be like these muscle tubes. And then we had there's going to be a separate shape here that also turns into the bone, kind of like a bone, that will actually, it would be more accurate if it kind of went closer to where the pinky is. Doesn't have to be super accurate, because also remember, if we're going to see this thing from a three-quarter side, I want to be able to make sure that that bone sticks out. And then we'll have so figuring out and making sure we know where these big muscle fibers are going to go into the hand. And it can't be too complicated because it's a simple character, but we are trying to achieve that look. So it's going to be a lot of like tapering, thick to thin type tubes. And in a mesh like this is actually pretty cool because we could split up later. We could actually split up all these pieces into that and then ZBrush it, and it'd actually probably look fine. But I think a lot of it is going to depend on me later thinking, you know, what's going to make the best game res looking mesh. Because it's so low poly anyway, you can kind of get away with like you know, spending some polygons because it's not super crazy to begin with. I think his face is a little too like upturned, so we can put it down. And size will be right there. And same thing with these guys. Again, it's going to be that whole like thick to super thin tapering. You can add like a bony. I think I imagined adding a bony part here as well. And then the fibers are going to go around just like normal muscles. And maybe the bone can go down, and then we'll have red on the other side. So setting up the character as well into its different colors will be also really important. You should have some sort of form of trap, but I know there's also it's gonna be like a big hole right here. And the game is just gonna be, you know, painted to be black, so you can't see it. His head's gonna stick out of it. Again, looking at that from the side. And we can add a, you know, little piece of geometry that's like, that's what neck is, right? But you're not, in game you wouldn't see it. So it wouldn't stay. It's just a way to be like, yeah, his little weird robot neck would kind of hang out there. But we definitely want to put like a larger piece like that. And I think I wanted to incorporate what I did on one of the designs, which is adding these cool little like cylindrical things on his back. I think could be kind of cool. We'll see how well you can see it, but I can extract that. We'll go back. There we go. Merge it down. So again, this I pictured kind of hanging out over, kind of like to protect his and it gives it like a little bit more of an interesting shape. And this is going to be, you know, the metal part, and then he'll have his fibrous stuff there. This will be a more like hard edge piece. And again, looking at it from that 3/4 to see if that's reading well or not. Then yeah, he was going to have his muscle fibers here. There's going to be another piece of geometry that goes down and has a little bit of metal. Could make it kind of go along the same lines. I think I did have something kind of interesting that I see in my concept is I actually kind of plateaued this. Oops. So I made it wider at the top, and then I kind of did this. Again, this is just trying to get a block out of do these shapes work. And you can do something too where I can grab this piece here. I don't have any poly paint yet, but I can make this interior black. And then make this piece black, because that's really what you're going to see. I want to turn the rest of it a little bit darker first, actually. That white is really hard to look at for my eyes, so. So now you can see more of what that's gonna read like. You can see that simplicity comes with its own set of interesting challenges, especially when trying to make sure that this is going to read from the 3/4 view, right? Making sure that this feels wide enough you can tell that this is where his, you know, his neck comes out of and things like that. So it is its own little fun challenge. And then we'll have a few muscle fibers, a big one, a medium, or a big one, a medium one, and then probably like a little small one, right? Just to keep the shapes very simple. And then most of these you probably won't see, but I think it would be interesting to have they all connected. Of course they are. Make sure they really don't have any polys between them. There we go. And I did have tubes going onto one, so that could be interesting, where little tubes. Then I can take these guys again, make is kind of like these big cauldron things. Not sure how big to make them yet, but we're gonna play with it right now. Because again, drawing it is one thing, and then, you know, putting it into 3D would be totally another. Flatten out a little bit. Again, they're more for creating some more breakup between what is mechanical versus what is musculature. A lot. Put in mind that it's to curve in the other direction. You'll get there eventually, but it's not true. Might be able to actually split that off and then have a little bit of a lower resolution. So it's a little easier to work with. I kind of made it where it's sort of attached to here, so let's try to do that. So that's looking pretty fun. This might just be kind of like floating pieces. We can get away with something like that because the game's so simplified. It's really just the importance of shapes, so we might be able to get away with something like that. Filling stuff with oops, red here to get just an idea of stuff. It's always nice to start getting color. We can kind of start breaking up a lot of stuff based on some color stuff as well. Oh, where did these on? That would help. And then again, I think I had it where it's kind of black, but we can do a little bit of what his abs would be. I think that's what it's going to be. This color. I mean, once you start getting the colors in there, we can start really making sure that these shapes read the way they're supposed to. So it's supposed to feel more like a pelvic bone and give more room for the abs and stuff. And then now we have that bone shape we can start pulling out. And again, from this view, I really want to accentuate and make sure that that has a good profile to it. It's very clear and readable. Like an Attack on Titan bull now. We can insert a cube here. I can grab a ring. Oops, I want 4. 4. Give me 4. Oh, ZBrush, thank you. In this ring. These are kind of looking like football player pads. I'm not sure if I like them yet. I'll figure out what to do with them. It'd just be a thinner, lower profile. I'll probably now start splitting off some of this stuff because it's going to get complicated to keep it together. So I can definitely split the horns off, and then I'll grab and split the face off and work on that separately. I'll keep all this together. Legs, and then I'll put hands. So the reason I'm splitting everything is because I'm going to go in and try to add those fibers later, and that's just going to be easier to do itself, but also I'm going to go in and, you know, sculpt out his face a little bit more. Doesn't have to be anything super crazy, but I do want a little more topology here. And for the low poly, as far as the game mesh goes, I'll probably keep it really, really low. So I'm gonna probably go over this, you know, later as like a retop. I think for the stream, I'll just keep it as a high, but later I would just completely retop. So I'm not gonna try to do anything too crazy of detail, because the shapes need to be very, very polygonal. Yeah. Reinhardt's saying hello again. Hello again. He is supposed to be able to like emote. You know, grabbing his stuff and pulling up his eyebrows, and then eventually, you know, he would have eyes that would, you know, go circular, so he could be kind of like surprised. Like, he's not supposed to be always super angry. That's just for when you fight him, but he actually can have like cooler expressions. That's kind of a goal later too. Which, if that's usually the case, you can also sculpt them in a more like neutral pose, but and then we had his cheek kind of be like a masseter muscle, so that way it just breaks up his face more and gives it more definition. So that is also red, so it can start to break up his face just a little bit more. Okay, Sato, hello. How's it going? I was asking, did I change the time of the stream? No, I start at 7 to 9, right? That's how I'm not crazy. At least I hope I'm not crazy. So yeah, stuff like this is just going to be very, very simple polygamy. And again, looking at it from... I did have it where it kind of went up like this. I don't know if that's going to be better or worse in the 3D. Had it a bit more shape. I don't think I like it. I think in my head I'm just constantly like, the simpler you can make this, the better. The tubes are more successful to make it like more mechanical than what I had before. Your country, it's later than usual. Oh, is it daylight savings? Is that what it is? It might be the daylight saving. It feels much later, I know. I'm gonna try out a few horn variations, see what sticks. So I can make these way more low resolution. There we go. So I had a version where it was more like this. Maybe you guys can tell me which one you guys like. Oops. No one's. I like these ones more still. Just because I think silhouette-wise it reads more as... Because we really only have this to go off of, but I think it's gonna be a more interesting shadow shape. Save also. That would be a smart thing to do. Oops, I always have caps lock on somehow. Oh. So the theme monk is some sort of cyberpunk minotaur. So we're doing some cyberpunk characters, but it's mainly because this is actually a character for a game that I am working on, just like a personal project. So I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and design some of the characters while on stream. Just kind of killing two birds with one stone kind of thing. You know me, I'm always changing stuff around. Okay. So now I have an idea of what that is. these. I could. I think I have a brush that would do it. Let me see. It's actually a hairbrush, but I think it's low poly for. Sorry. Oh, I'm gonna yawn. Character. Where it might work. I have this tube one. That one's got too much of a point. This is tube one. Yeah, let's read. So we're actually going to do thin on either side, then we're going to have it be thick in the middle, so it should look like draw it very well. Or I just concept it. I'll just go for it instead. I can mesh it later. Or just retop it anyway. I want to just start getting in the, basically I just want to start getting in the muscle fibers. And of course it merges. I'll just make one. I'm surprised that one actually merged. Try group some. Just want to get these fibers in here. Start just feeling out, trying to get those shapes feeling right. Now that I have kind of like the block yet. I'll have it on dynamic subdiv so it looks smooth than it actually is. So I'm working really low poly. It just doesn't look like it. I'm just trying to get the shapes to kind of feel like they're working together. I think like a underlying thing too is making sure that it'll feel like more like muscle if I make sure that the middle part of it is going to be always the thickest part. Playing around with stuff like that I think will be interesting. And then also, I want to do this, but also keep it relatively simple. That's the thing, is this character is complicated for simplicity because he's got a lot of muscle fiber stuff, but the goal would bring this down. Again, maybe simplifying what that was. And then probably for, I think I had some like, little white ribbing things, so we could probably still stay true to that. So that way there's some white here and then red. I think in this case I will also grab this guy and grab this guy and go ahead and merge these guys together now. We can continue to Dynamesh, and now I can work on top of those a little easier. And then the idea is having this hard surface. He's here. And we have red, white, and then this would be red. I should could have kept it separate. No, now that I know what I want. Merge. Archetype really doesn't want to work today. It's so weird. Oh. Ooh, create a hole. That's fun. This is going to be, just keep that white. This one can be red. So I'm just now going in and trying to block out all those shapes, because now we can get the difference between like the rib cage, or what is the rib cage, or the representation of one, versus we've got the sternocleidomastoid type muscle in the sternum here. and all that jazz. So we're trying to get the breakup that we're looking for each of these parts. And then I'll go in and add little accents of detail as well that I think will help break up the monotony of like too much red in one area. And I see it done a lot on like muscle fiber type suits. So try to do that. Let's try for the form now. I'm going to duplicate this just in case, because it's nice to always keep where your form was before going in and doing something like this. So make this one, and then this one. This, make sure we grab bicep, and then there's actually a middle one that I'll make, and then this can be the tricep, but I'll also give this area right here the bone area. I'll try to grab this piece here because it's so small. And it's super wafer thin, so I can hopefully try to thicken it up to help. There we go. The secret is just to keep inflating things. And we can move it back to where it needs to, later. I might not need this piece because I'm gonna actually take this piece and I'm gonna split it up into this muscle here, this one, be a bone, and then that one, and then seems a little confusing at first, but I promise a method to the madness. Try not double so you can see what I'm doing more. And this is part of, again, that bone, which I don't want it to be, so I'm just gonna put that over there. This guy, this one, this one. Oh. Maybe. Okay, let's see what that gives us. A lot of these you have to kind of inflate first. And then it'll smooth out. But this here is white. So now we can inflate it back up now that they're separate and give it back its volume. Then you can see what's kind of like what's missing and what needs to be added. So we can add some mechanical stuff or little pieces to help sell. All these little muscle fibers and stuff, which is fun. before you do this, you always want to make sure that you're pretty happy with your initial shapes and stuff, because it's going to be a lot harder to sculpt out onto this stuff, right? Now it's all split. So just making sure that you like what you have before doing this stuff is probably good. But knowing anatomy in this case is super useful. Because we're basically just making a little crochet. I think we'll add something in there. Okay. Maybe this part here can be like more metal. And then I think I was going to put like a screw kind of thing in there. We can kind of maybe take that shape. We can put it down here now. This is a way to fill some space. Maybe this is something that like the bicep can kind of like fall into or something. There are two shapes here, so I think I should probably take grab. Need another one here. This is actually another muscle between the bicep and tricep. This can be purely just bicep. It was kind of being two shapes. We'll probably pull in his head more to do all these things. Making sure that that's the only one grabbing. A lot of separate parts here. Which again, maybe it's just sculpting. It would have been, it would have been a fine idea too. But I think I like getting the insertion points, and then when I retop over it and bake on it, I think I'll get like a really between everything. But a lot of this stuff can also just be very sort of experimental. It's like, I think I've split the tricep in half, which isn't. See what it does. It does that, and then it does that. If you want to make muscles, I guess this is one way to do it. just making sure that balanced out in an interesting way. In that quarter kind of side view. Giving it kind of flat in comparison to everything, add just make it feel a little more, give it some more contrast, because everything else is so ovally and muscular and rounded. So it's nice to keep that a bit more of a mechanical breakup. And then I'm just going to do the same to the legs here. So let's split them off. Oh, yachting. Daylight saves hits me at you. I usually don't get affected by it, but it got me this time. I think we're just going to split this out in half, actually. Because you're not going to see the inside, so... real full, crazy... Again, the important thing that I like about getting this is getting that tapering, and then having kind of like the volume of the muscle. Something with this guy. This was gonna make it feel muscle fibery. This is giving it these tapers. Like polyferret, since you might actually map out the muscles, I do something simpler in my workflow as well. My goodness, sorry. Yeah, I think it's super helpful to be able to do it. In this case, this character is also just all muscle fiber, so it does. The character lends itself to doing this for sure. It's super effective. And this here's kind of like the great choke canter, so it's going to be more. So I think splitting things up into like 3 shapes is probably pretty good. As you can see, it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think any more muscles would look too. It would get too into realism, which isn't what we're going for. You see while doing this, it's still, the silhouette still is the same. Silhouette hasn't really changed, which I think is also important. It's technically kind of tendon. This is also kind of white, but it's not bone. It's more like the tendon part of the tricep, so. I mean, you technically probably won't ever see it because it's in the back of the character. You know, it bothers me if it's not there. Oops. And then the legs here will just be, probably just merge it all down because it's simple. I know this is a calf muscle, but I'm gonna, it's more like as if he's wearing a mechanical, you know, boot type thing. That way we get a good breakout. So we get, you know, the white, red, white, red, white, red, white, red. Because if he's just all red, then it's going to be way too much. You could actually make that white too, because that could be the second bone. It could technically be the radius right there, right? So we could move that. Got the radius, and we've got what is, say, is the humerus, right? So we have the humerus, the radius and ulna. That actually works out pretty well. It's not exactly accurate, right? But it is those three bones that give us those three white shapes in there, so it makes it feel realistic. Or believable. I won't say realistic, that's not the right word. Save this guy. It's funny because actually, technically probably wouldn't go much further in this skull kind of character, so we'll see. I don't know if you guys would really want to see me take it to a final game asset or anything like that, but we technically could. I don't know if that's exciting. And fix the deltoid, because it feels like the shapes are too much the same shape. So I want to get a bigger shape in the middle here. Oops, backface masking. That might help. Just that way it's not so uniform, so if you look at the difference, right? Like that's uniform, non-uniform kind of thing. Just helps with readability a little bit more. Yes, I think it does. I'm not super concerned about the back because we won't really see it, but to keep this kind of simplified, we might do something where it's just a line, where it's not getting like an entire six-pack. We'll just keep that simple. I think I also will want to make his torso maybe slightly bigger because I think it's a little too tapered. So I can pull this down like a little bit more. I want to keep his torso kind of the same, but I want to narrow out his hips and then I can take his legs. It's asking, so is this guy going to use his arms to with standing and balance? It'd be cool if he could sometimes kind of do what the drawing was, right? Like the quadrupedal one, where he kind of gets down on all fours. That's why I kind of did like a combination of all of them, because I feel like they're all similar enough in like the moveset that I liked. I liked that idea, right? So I think that'd be cool. What do I do? I think we're just gonna move it all at once. Let me go back here for a second. So I had this. I can go, whoops, go into the plugin. I want to do the transpose master. I could probably merge it all down now again, but I'm not going to. So I can go to T-pose real quick. I'm gonna make pull his legs down a little bit so I can pull his. So down. I just felt like his legs were getting too... His legs are short, but I felt like his hips were like kind of weirdly wide. Well, you can always look at the difference. So I don't know. I feel like the shape was kind of getting a little too blobby. So I'm just trying to clean it back up a little bit. Just trying to figure right shapes because I feel like it's not tapering the way I want it to yet. So again, just a lot of playing with, trying to find the balance between all these things. Okay, go back. We'll see what it looks like. You see how it feels just kind of like that. So I'm trying to pull it down a little bit. Just battling with shapes. Battle for shapes. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta bring his head in, huh? We'll go ahead and T-pose that real quick too. Head. Just so it's a little more condensed. And there we go. Walked out. So I think I still have, hands and stuff to do, and then I think next week we'll be kind of doing some cleaner topology on top of it, making it really, really like sharp and clean. And there's a lot of ways you can do that with like ZBrush. I don't want to bore you with certain retopping things, but I think we get certain stuff starting to look clean and like maybe figuring out, his kind of back detail and stuff like that. Could be helpful. Yeah. I think just keeping them like abstract, weird, little circular shapes or whatever, I think is fine. So it feels like kind of weird tech, I think that could be fun. Polyfied asked me one last question about what do you use to retopo? I actually do it in ZBrush. That sounds crazy. But I like just staying in one program. And with something like this, it's gonna be so low poly and polygonal that it wouldn't take that long to make super low poly. So I would just do it here. But excuse me. But most stuff that I work on, I actually do a retop in ZBrush. So there you have it. All right, cool. Well, if you guys want to see me keep working on it, I'm probably gonna, I gotta clean up the hands a lot. I'll probably just start with like a low poly hand, straight up model one, since it's gonna be skeletal anyway. So that could be kind of fun. So tune in next time, watch all that good jazz, and thank you guys for watching and lurking and hanging out with me and being tired with me as daylight savings gets the best of us because it gets too drunk. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining. All right, bye.